I'm glad you are all here. Come on in, we are just starting. And we're gonna hopefully make this a little bit different approach-wise than other sessions. This is the last time you guys all get to sit down together. We're gonna be up, we're gonna be engaging you. And let's start directly with that. If anybody is from the tech community or feels yourself digital science, tech inclined, would you stand up for us? Let us see who we are. Oh, that's great. We got a good group. Stay up for a second because I want to pick on a couple people. Warning, I'm going to ask you who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about the intersection of tech and anti-corruption. Rebecca.
Hi, thank you. Rebecca Lee from Open Corporate, so we're the open company database of the world. But my background is I used to run PwC's investigative analytics unit in the UK, doing all kinds of anti-financial crime investigations.
We have gifts for anyone who speaks, so let's, there's little Indian cakes. So anybody who speaks at all until we run out gets a cake. So who really wants the next cake? Anybody? All right, okay, at the back. The cakes get people moving.
Hi, my name is Juliana Cano. I'm from TI, and I am the anti-harassment contact. So please feel free if there's anyone at any time that feels that they are not being treated properly to please come and see me later. And please I'm reminding everyone that we need to be nice to each other and treat each other with respect.
That's a great start, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Andrea and I represent Development Gateway. We are a data and digital nonprofit. And I am passionate about making sure that we are focusing not just on the tech, but on the broader environment, making sure that we're achieving our goals that we set out to achieve. So who next?
Okay, let's do one more, and then you're going to have plenty of chances to talk. We're not doing everybody here, but let's do one more.
Hi, I'm Hector from the Honduras Business Council, but personally very interested in data science to mine procurement data and do some transparency information.
And now answer that question for me, if you would. What do you find passionate about the intersection of tech and anti-corruption?
Well, I love programming. I do coding in R, so data science, but anti-corruption in general, I mean, it's the great producer of inequality in Honduras, and passionate about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Not about inequality.
Thank you. Just hand the mic to Tom, if you would. Yeah. Let's take two of our panelists here and ask the same question. Satya, let's go with you, and maybe a little introductory remarks too.
Thanks very much, Don, and thank you everyone for accepting our invitation to collaborate. We're by no means experts on anti-corruption. I mean, some of us are, but I'm certainly not. And I come to you in complete humility, asking you to join us on a path to breaking silos and breaking barriers. I come from a background in human rights and human dignity, in climate policy and climate justice. And what I'm really hoping we can do as we start on this collaborative path of the launch of our Tech for Transparency initiative tonight is really to focus on the decade ahead. When I was a young journalist in the 1980s and 1990s, the great utopian dream was what we called the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. It didn't come to be. So we translated those into the Sustainable Development Goals, which are meant to be achieved by 2020. Not a chance. Now we've changed it to Agenda 2030, the global goals of the UN, which are still the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we don't get it right now, we're not going to have a sustainable planet or a future worth living. So our work at the Digital Economist is the confluence of corruption, the climate crisis, and conflict. And when we take these three existential crises for the planet, and the climate crisis also includes biodiversity loss and waste and pollution, we can readily see that we cannot afford silos, We cannot afford boundaries or barriers. We have to break through silos, work across boundaries, and it's citizens, engaged citizens such as yourselves, who will make the difference, because as we have seen from the failed COPs, governments alone will not be able to do it. It's going to take all of us. There's room for everyone on the journey. Please bring more people, and please let's begin on working together as best we can on a future that works for all of us and leaves no one behind in our one common home.
Satya, thank you. Say, Tom, let's go to you next, and please include that answer why you're passionate about the marriage of these two elements, science and activism.
Thank you, Don. Wow, that's extremely loud. I will stop lurking behind this pillar because that's quite weird. My name's Tom Townsend. I'm the executive director of an organisation called Open Ownership. We work exclusively with governments around the world attempting to implement meaningful reform to get companies to both disclose who ultimately owns and controls them, and then publish that data. Our role day to day is doing the hard work of trying to implement new systems of technology and business process in government departments. That was my background. I was a UK civil servant for a long time, trying to make the UK government function better. Just function normally would be a good thing, I think, for the UK government right now, to be honest. And so much of that work was, it was about doing technology and making data pass between government departments, but it was fundamentally about people and trying to get them to work better together. And I guess to answer your question, Don, and my role in all of this, I don't like the word passionate. I'm never quite sure what it means. But I think
forgot you're a Brit. I forgot you're a Brit, Tom. Okay,
yeah, exactly. What I love about this work, because I do understand that concept, I think, is that it's the really hard stuff for me, working with people in governments who, for the most part around the world, want to do a better job, and they want to see their country have less money stolen from it, and pay for things that people want and care about. And the little bit of the puzzle that we work on as Open Ownership, I think, makes a meaningful contribution to that. But it is only a tiny piece of the puzzle, and solving these problems is a team sport. So one of the reasons I got involved in this is that I think it exposes us as an organisation, I think our community of anti-corruption worker bees, to a range of other people and communities who are working on fascinating technology that I think we can harness. I don't come at that from a kind of utopian perspective. There's going to be a huge number of challenges along the way because we're failing to get the basics right. So we can't just leap ahead into things that are way more space age. But we do need to do the thinking about what better can look like. And I think this report, which I hope you will read, and there's a little sort of pressy of it on your chairs, and ask us if you don't have one, have a read, because I think it's looking to lay out some of the kind of core ideas that we can start collectively thinking about to try and answer some of those questions. I think, as Don says, the goal in all of this is that we can work together from that foundation and kind of see where we get to. So I'll hand back to you.
That's great. Yeah, team sport. As you're getting a sense here, I hope, we are all about convening collaboration across tech and activism to try to solve these problems. Let's ask another question of everybody. Anybody here who considers themselves primarily focused on anti-corruption for the global south? And I know that's a loaded term, but I hope you use it in its broadest, most embracing term. A couple. Okay, well, both of you guys are going to get prizes. You're going to get food because there's three. There's three possibilities. You know, we might even do that. So, no, please. Okay. So the same question, and that is who you are, what you do, and if you don't like the concept of passion, what intrigues you the most about this marriage of science and activism that we're trying to go for?
My name is Patrick Dijkman. Some organization I'm creating called Codename Transparency, based in Ecuador, focusing on specifically what we're talking about here, tech and bringing solutions for transparency, specifically for government entities that handle a lot of environmental issues. I used to work as an advisor to the minister in the Ministry of Environment, focusing specifically on financial things, financial flows coming into the ministry. But I'm a bit of a tech nerd, so I look inside of the systems, and it just blew my mind. Like, we had suffered ransomware, we had databases that were all over the place, they weren't talking to each other. We had signed agreements, SCASU agreements about having open data, but people inside had no access to themselves to the data because they were all over the place. And that transparency from a financial perspective, in the next 5 years, all of government bonds should have ESG components embedded into them. But if the entities that produce those data sets are not transparent, investors will not put the money in. So it's a bet in itself to say if we don't transform the entities that will enable the cash flows to come in, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So that's, in a way, why I'm in this space.
That's fantastic, Patrick. Thank you. Let's go down here. And we're going to do all three of you guys.
Hi, I'm Barbara. I'm from Brazil, living in Germany now, but I work for a state government in Brazil, and I'm an internal auditor. I'm here more because I use technology to our purposes of investigations of companies. So I'm here because I like the concept of passion. So I'm passionate about this the subject of anti-corruption, and I love to work for the public interest. I'm a civil servant, so that's what I love to do. And I completely relate my background with yours, and I also want to improve the public service to offer more goods for people, for population, and and that's our passion in my work. And yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Would you pass the mic right on down there?
Hi again. Just to say, add on a little bit more detail. Some of our work, we've focused on building portals that show procurement data, specifically in Kenya at the subnational level. We've also worked on beneficial ownership data assessments in Nigeria and elsewhere in East Asia. So I hope that is helpful, and I'm excited to learn more.
That's great. Thank you. I'll trade you. Let's go back to the panel then. Let's see. Let's Diana, why don't you go next?
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
It's so nice to be here. I'm Diana. I run research and sustainability for the Global Blockchain Business Council. I want to show of hands, is any of you looking into the role of blockchain for transparency as well? Okay, yeah, it's starting. So I used to work in international development. I'm originally from Bolivia, and I used to work for the Inter-American Development Bank. And right around the time of the transition between the Millennium Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals, there was a collaborative effort that led to a document that was called From Billions to Trillions. The premise of it was that in order to address the challenges of the world today, we can't allocate billions of dollars like development banks had been doing up until the time. We actually need to allocate trillions of dollars to address world hunger and everything that eventually got encompassed into the Sustainable Development Goals. The only way to do that, leveraging and mobilizing that quantity of funds, is to address the private sector and to engage private sector activities into, call it socially responsible, environmental initiatives. So that led to a really interesting concept of working across stakeholders, right? And if you're thinking about addressing the world's problems, not just as a sense of reallocation of funds, but really as opening access to networks of productivity and growth. And that is where technology comes into play. And when you think about technology and really the role of transparency, the role of accountability, like Don really likes to use the word sunlight, drawing the level of transparency that a blockchain can bring through open data, right? And through open data, we are, through GBBC, Global Blockchain Business Council, we're already seeing really interesting applications in this space. Companies that have developed algorithms using AI and machine learning to track and trace all the illicit activity back to the very first moment that, even though like you can think blockchain activity is anonymous and all these anonymous wallets and the money laundering concerns at the beginning that led to all these scandals, but there are ways to track and trace because every single transaction is recorded and open across the network. And you can track and trace that through AI algorithms that are very sophisticated that we already have and identify the very point where the person initially signed on to their first wallet and downloaded their first sign-on to any platform. And that's where they provide their KYC, their identity. So being able to track and trace the illicit activity and connect it to the people behind it is the concept also behind beneficial ownership transparency that there's really interesting work to be done right now. And that's exactly why we're here. It has to be a collaborative effort. It has to engage all of you and everything that you're doing. And we're really excited to engage with you on the data journey and what this paper is all about. So.
Thanks, Diana. I'm going to turn to one more member of our panel who's sitting in the audience because he's also the rapporteur and needs space to be capturing all the ideas you guys are going to be popping out throughout this session. Tom, why don't you introduce yourself? Same drill.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Cardamone. I'm President and CEO of Global Financial Integrity. We're a think tank based here in Washington, and we focus on the secret spaces, the opaque spaces in the global financial system that allow corruption, criminality, money laundering to occur, whether that's anonymous shell companies, trusts, tax havens, free trade zones, so on and so forth. We do in-depth research to provide a data-based recommendations to governments. We collaborate with our CSO partners. We train journalists. And we really try to engage with a broad array of stakeholders who are trying to address this from whatever angle they see it. And so we've been doing this since 2006. And so I've seen a tremendous amount of progress, more progress probably in the last 3 years, 4 years, perhaps, than in the previous 10. So the momentum is going in the right direction. And I think we're here tonight to talk about how we can add some technology onto what we've all been pushing for, which is more transparency. And to get to the passion question, I think at the end of the day, if you can spend your working hours to try to benefit something larger than yourself, a community larger than yourself, I think that's a good way to spend your day and spend your working time. And hopefully we can see more equity in the global financial system going forward.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Tom. Okay, another opportunity to maybe stand up and stretch and maybe even earn one of those little cakes. Stand up, please, if you consider yourself primarily in the anti-corruption activist community. Now, I know there are a few more here. Okay. Good, 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 good. Jerome, let's start with you. Same question. Who are you? What do you do? And why are you passionate, or at least interested in, the possibility of really marrying up transformative digital science with anti-corruption activism?
Great, thank you. So my name is Jerome. I work at the Secretariat of Transparency International. So I guess what I would say from the tech side is that having worked or working with citizens, particularly during, like, for example, COVID times, it became necessary for us to talk more or to deal more with like tech, to become more digitalized, for example, be it when it comes to complaint mechanisms or to any other mechanisms that we have. So maybe on my passion on anti-corruption, coming back to the point, is that I mean, for a long time, I have been one of the, I've always been passionate about how, as citizens or how anti-corruption activists, we become more involved in how we can hold government to account. So I think for me, that's like the most important thing that, you know, has motivated me to become more involved in the fight against corruption, the first point, and also on the tech side, how citizens can become more involved in, you know, any digital ways of fighting corruption.
Citizens getting involved and holding them to account.
Yes.
Love it. Very good. We're going to go to all three of you guys standing up here. Thank you. No more cords? Okay. All right, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shoakim Folari. I run Civic Media Lab in Nigeria. And what we try to do is we organize journalists in the grassroots to do investigations around corruption in their own locality. We want to localize anti-corruption investigation. I have a background in tech and media, but then I spent a long period of my career in the civil society space, but I pivoted into media because I saw that I could generate more impact with media. So when I used to run the tech team for West African NGO Network, we will do fancy things, right, with Android then when it first came out. CNN will do a story on it. But then I knew that it wasn't generating as much impact. But then I could do a story today, and the governor of a state will respond to it, and he'll send people out to go and address the issue, and the livelihood of people will be impacted. So that's what got me passionate about media. But then I'm also passionate about blockchain. I'm actually one of those fools that did not pull out their equity from the market when it was tanking. I know that is embarrassing to say here, but I know, you know. I believed in it so much, I put my skin in the game. I got hurt, but I still believe in it. And for me, I see a lot of applications. I see a lot of way we can organize ourselves with increased transparency and trust, even amongst ourselves. Newsrooms can have DAOs that help to promote quality of reporting and also help channel resources to people that are doing the most impactful work. So I just see a new opportunity for us to organize ourselves. That's why I'm passionate about blockchain. And that's why I decided to just come to this lovely meeting to see all the ideas that we'll be able to work with. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks. Please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Bruce. I'm the Chief Executive of Transparency International UK, the British chapter of TI. I think that I think a lot of the anti-corruption world is still quite analog at the moment, but I think there's a huge amount of exciting conversations about the possibilities to use technology to further our shared goals, such that actually I confess to finding it a little bit overwhelming, and I think a number of my colleagues at other TI chapters around the world experience that too, in terms of sort of where to invest our time and energies and what the most sort of impactful models can be. So by way of example, I've heard there's been a lot of discussion in the UK with some of our private sector partners that we work with to try and help them improve their anti-bribery and corruption programs around how they could better deploy artificial intelligence tools, for example, to quotes, reverse engineer the predicate offences of bribery and corruption that occur in the private sector, so that rather than having a program that is catching it after the problem has happened, you're seeing patterns of behaviour, you're seeing systems information flows beforehand that actually can take a more of a risk-based approach using technology. So that's one interesting field of discussion. In TI's Global Health Programme, they're using artificial intelligence to, in a similar way, actually, sort of connect with media and aggregate stories of corruption in access to vaccines and medicines at the point of delivery, because that's hugely difficult to measure in an analog way. And then I guess my sort of final observation would be, as many of you may know, that the UK economy has a particular problem with the proceeds of corruption from around the world. Our National Crime Agency estimates around £100 billion of dirty money flows through the British economy every year. And whilst we've seen a lot of legislative progress on tackling that over the last year or so, one of the real challenges you see is resourcing and tools for law enforcement to go after that, even if they've got the legislative tools and the ability to go after some of this stuff. They haven't necessarily got the people or the other tools in their box. And so, I'm curious, particularly related to what I've just read in your paper here, to see how the tools of technology could be better applied to some of that. So, like Tom, I'm British, so my passion is quite reserved by my Great British Reserve, but that's certainly an area that I'm very excited to hear more about. Thank you. And I have a cake already.
And you already have a cake. Guess what? You get two. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
So, guys, these are all such excellent comments. I will comment here for a moment that two of the members of our working group, and we'll talk a little bit more of that, are media. So Patrick Alley, who you've seen on the plenary stage, founder of Global Witness, as part of the group, as is Paul Radu, head of OCCRP. This is a particular angle, and as each of you have been speaking here, I'm saying we got the right people in the room here for potential collaborators, and it's very exciting. Let's, after that, Navroop, why don't you do the same?
Sure, sounds good. Hi, good evening, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Everybody would get the cake, by the way. Our idea was, the energies are going to be low. It's 5:30 p.m., so don't worry. Oh, we got you covered. All right, so my name is Navroop Sahdev, and I'm a fellow at MIT Connection Science. We are one of the research groups at the Media Lab, sort of the innovation factory of the United States, if you may. And I have often observed that we have many solutions, whether it's AI, data science, data analytics, machine learning models, deep learning models. And we're always looking for problems to solve. And I'm in this room the past few days, and I'm like, oh man, there are a lot of problems to solve, right? And I think for me, quite honestly, I'm an economist by trade and training. I'm interested in building human-centered economies and a global economy that's human-centered, that puts people, planet, and business in that order, and slash profit, right? And not the other way around. The WEF report came out last year, so that we don't support that. And it's interesting because, I think one of the speakers in the plenary, they asked how many technology-focused colleagues are in the room, and I think some 4 people stood up.
I think it's everybody who's in this room stood up in that plenary.
That's it. I was like, I just counted another 4 here, so that I think 4 of you guys were in there. So thank you for coming to this session, because I think what we're looking at from an economic perspective is a broken system, and the infrastructure that it's based on is replete with incentives that are misaligned. Right? So why are we excited about the tech? Why do we have a tech-first approach? The answer is pretty clear. We need to change the underlying infrastructure in order for a better incentive structure to work, right? Because people won't change. We've created, well, I read Patrick Alley's book, Very Bad People. It was eye-opening. It was my gym companion, as I said, and I was just like shocked as I'm listening to all these things and 20 years of journey, exposing the bad people, I guess, in the world. And it just reinforces the idea for me that we need to use technologies like blockchain and,
other technologies like artificial intelligence or machine learning, if you're in the domain, to ensure that we have visibility into systems, to ensure that the very infrastructure has transparency is one of the pillars of the system itself, right? Because we can no longer rely on humans and the shadow network, if you may, around the world in order to just give up their privileges or entitlements or ability to pretty much be above and beyond the social contract, right? That's really what we're looking at. So I have a lot more to say, but I'll pause here. Why am I passionate about it? Well, $50 trillion of wealth hidden from the global economy, $500 billion of taxes, something I learned from Don. Over the past few months, I had the immense privilege to work with and the rest of the group here. That is a huge leakage, right? You and I can recycle, but that's not going to help the planet become sustainable. So this narrative of putting the onus on the individual, this neoliberal story, is broken, right? Let's face that. And corruption is that big, black hole, if you may, and we're all going to go down with it if we don't fix the problem right now. So I think our call to action really is, and the reason why we came here with this paper, we said, well, there's this conference happening. We want to talk to our colleagues. We think we have these solutions where we're not the ones building the technology, just to be very clear. We are conveners, we are catalysts, and we are the glue to bring the communities together. And it's to start to underline and outline what could be, as Diana talked about, the data journey and how you can actually deploy tech, right, step by step, to build better systems. So I'll leave it with that. Yeah.
So blockchain is an interesting metaphor as well as a reality. And I love the concept of decentralized systems. And you're seeing an example on this panel of decentralized systems. I'm going to take I'm going to challenge you, Navroop. I don't think we have the answers. And with respect for the tremendous progress that has been made in digital science, it is paired with the tremendous progress on the political side, on the activism side. And I think we all need to appreciate together that neither side has figured it out. And we need to do it together. That's the way we're going to solve it. So I just want to do that little bit of sharpening there. Tremendous humility coming from this side.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's why we're standing up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally believe it's this side and that side. There's a tech side and the activist side. I personally don't see the world that way. I think the reality of it is, and I have tremendous respect for everyone here, the people who spend their entire career doing this work and for social good, right? I think most of the community here is either not that interested in the tech, it's not their domain, right? Or they don't quite understand it. I had a lot of people walk up to us and say, well, we don't understand the tech, right? And so it's not so much that there are these different parties and we have to bring them together. The question is, are we actually going to prioritize technologies that can help us, right? I mean, the same thing we see in the government, right? Nothing's stopping the government agencies from hiring data scientists and do maybe work similar to what you do, right? There are a lot of open source databases. Nobody's plotting them and seeing where the money is going, right? So I think we need to change the narrative a little bit and perhaps bring the technologists in and say, well, actually, put them to work, right? And for social good. Because guess what? If we don't, then the people on the other side are definitely going to. So I'll leave it at that.
We'll continue the conversation. Satya, get into the conversation here.
Thanks very much, Navroop and Don. I just want to bring us back to why we want to do this. The $50 trillion in wealth that escapes any sort of harvesting for social good is actually theft from the most vulnerable and the most marginalized. Every $10 million that lies hidden either through legal tax avoidance, illegal tax evasion, or corrupt activities is money taken away from the collective wealth of humankind, from the common good of humankind. If we are going to form any sort of sustainable world in which the Sustainable Development Goals become a reality as opposed to an endlessly debated topic, we need money to do it. In 2015, the Paris Agreement promised $100 billion a year to help the most vulnerable populations of the world build inclusive climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. Forget making that an annual sum. So far, $15 billion is all that's been done in 7 years in total. Antonio Guterres, who seems to be a bit of a Don Quixote figure going up against the forces of corruption and blight everywhere, is now forced to begging, can you make that at least $40 billion a year? So when you look at $500 billion going untaxed and unharvested, and you simply want to apply that to the climate agenda, this is what corruption is robbing us of. This is what corruption deprives us of. And I'm one of those people who does not understand technology as I should, but I do trust my colleagues that if it can be applied to bring transparency to the system, to bring the hidden economy into light, to ensure that people pay the societal obligations that are part of their commitment to the collective wealth and the common good. That's why we're here, and let's never lose sight of that, and let's all work together on that journey.
Proof of Canadian passion. Absolutely, Satya, absolutely. Well, another possible stand-up opportunity, you mentioned somewhere in there the tax avoidance piece of this, and it is a part of the anti-corruption. Anybody here whose work touches tax avoidance, which is lawful, tax evasion, which is criminal, either of those? Anybody in the room? One fellow soul. And me. Let me have you introduce yourself and earn a cake.
Hi. Well, I'm Emilia Diaz-Struck. I'm a journalist. I'm actually a data and research editor with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. And some of our investigations have actually touched tax avoidance, illicit money flows, and so on. So you might have heard of some of those. And I have heard some of you talking about them.
Were you involved in the Pandora Papers?
I have worked in like offshore leaks, Panama Papers, Lux Leaks, Swiss Leaks, Pandora Papers, and so on. So, and I'm passionate about my amazing team. So I work with a multidisciplinary team, like of data people, data analysts, researchers, developers, programmers, and we try to figure out how to best answer to journalists' needs and how technology and data can help with our reporting. And that includes, of course, all what is connected with investigating corruption, tax avoidance, illicit money flows, and so on.
Thank you. And you guys have a fabulous database online.
Oh, Offshore Leaks database, yes. And we updated it in May this year. So it's all there.
I've used it, it's great. Thanks. Trade you. So I'm the other person who raised their hand about tax. And I got to come here with the most humility of anyone, and actually it's humiliation. For those of you who are American and know Alcoholics Anonymous, you always start with the confession. So I stand here and say, I am a corporate tax avoidance enabler. I spent 30 years in the corporate tax avoidance space. Among other things, I built or co-built a 600-person state tax minimization group, we called it, at a Big Four firm. My career led me, after litigating on the defense side of it all, to going in-house at Berkshire Hathaway, where I was executive tax counsel. Just a year ago, I had that aha moment. We'll save for another time my trying to wrestle with how it took me 30 years to have that aha moment. But I can tell you, I come here with a great sense of humiliation and a desire to do something better. So after right around this time last year, starting a state tax justice, and it became a multi-tax justice column, I got this great invitation to a symposium put on by the Prosperity Collaborative, which is a group of MIT, in particular the MIT Connection Science, in which Navroop is a fellow, and the World Bank, and a few others. And it was 40 people around a room focusing on this question: how can transformative digital science, Web3, blockchain, distributed ledgers, artificial intelligence, machine learning, how can that help make the world a better place in terms of financial flows and tax? The co-hosts were Anders Agerskov of the World Bank, whose many jobs along the way have included focusing on tax evasion globally. He and Sandy Pentland. Sandy heads MIT Connection Science, and he's, look him up, Forbes magazine calls him one of the 6 most powerful data scientists in the world. So these were really the folks who really wanted to do this, and they wanted collaboration, like we wanted collaboration with you guys. Preparing for this meeting, I'm just fresh out of the avoidance world. I called up the handful of friends I had begun to make in the transparency community and asked, what do I do with this seat at the table here? And everyone said, well, beneficial ownership transparency is what really calls out for what you're talking about: a global, open source digital architecture to support it, to actualize the full vision of beneficial ownership transparency. And I learned from them the tremendous explosion of success in the past 10, but particularly the past 5 years, that this community has put their blood, sweat, and tears into achieving. And yet, there still remained so many significant obstacles. So I went there, and at the end of the day, we met a lot of tremendous folks, many of whom are on our 20-person or so working group. Talked about a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, it was this beneficial ownership transparency concept that got traction. In due in no small part to Navroop's enthusiasm for it, she holds a lot of sway with this impressive group of people. And so Navroop, I thank you again for jumping on this idea. You really catalyzed it. Not having the time in my career, don't have another 30 years to do this, so we just didn't wait. We formed the working group. There's some tremendous folks. There's the former head of Israel's financial crimes unit is on it. The head of the #1 nonprofit in India, transforming the digital space there. Just tremendous group of diverse folks, both on the activism side and on the science side. All the panel here are all members of that group. And our goal was to come to it together and say, all right, $50 trillion. Actually, Jim Henry, McKinsey's former chief economist, I understand maybe his numbers may be increasing that. We'll see. It may be the estimate. The estimates are hard. But there's been a lot of consensus coalescing around that concept. And just think about that, $50 trillion in wealth that's been hidden. And when you look just at then switch now to the tax avoidance piece of it, corporate and personal, totaling in evaded taxes or avoided taxes, lost taxes, the number is now $480 billion every single year. So you go to the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres's plea that, what's the number? Is it 3 or is it 7? $3 trillion a year needed to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including climate resilience and everything else. Well, imagine if we could harvest that and earmark it for climate resilience. I mean, it's extraordinary. And I know that's what you guys work at every day, your whole lives, and maybe there's a piece that science could do. So we decided to spend summer and fall exploring together what the possibilities might be. No pretenses that we were going to come up with solutions, but to see whether there was credibility in the idea now, today, of getting super serious about catalyzing a widespread, decentralized effort to marry up science and activism. And it was, just a gift to me to be able to be in the Zoom room with this group of folks every time that we spoke. The passion and the commitment and the excitement around the idea was tremendous. And hopefully you get a little bit of flavor of that in the report. At some point, we'll leave this up, but that QR code will take you pretty close to at least getting to the paper. I think you might have to take a couple more steps.
It's right on there.
But we'll get there. Anyway, that'll get you there, and there is not one on this little executive summary, but there is. Good work, team. All right, okay, so that's your way into the report. It's a flavor of what we've been talking about. And I hope that as we talk a bit more this evening, it'll be the beginning of your digging into that, and I hope you mark the heck out of it. Agree with this, disagree with that. That's impossible. That you missed a piece here. And if you are interested at the end of this, we have a process somewhere for getting, well, you see us, we're easy to find on LinkedIn or wherever else. If you're interested in being part of the collaboration going forward, would really love to hear from you. Deep breath.
Quick
piece.
question from the video audience.
Yeah, please.
Asking about links to the paper that they might find online somewhere.
Yes.
Since they're not
So
here,
I guess we should go thedigital.economist.com. Can we put the QR code right on there?
Exactly, the QR code, both on the physical copy of the brochure as well as that one, would take you right to the landing page. And the very first slide is, you can click that, says access now, and you'll get right to the full PDF. By the way, we officially are launching this paper right now as we speak during this panel. So it's just been added there.
And the website is
thedigital.economist.com.
Great.
Okay, good. So we really want you guys to be engaged here. The structure for this next part of the discussion is to think about stages of the data journey that's relative to beneficial ownership transparency. And what we have done in the paper, you'll see, is talk a bit about the obstacles at each of these stages and some potential solutions. But what I'm hoping, Diana, you could do for us is first just sort of talk us through the stages all together, what they are, and then let's go back and let's talk together as a group about what obstacles we see, what you've experienced in your efforts, and then brainstorm some about potential tech solutions at those stages. So, Diana, let's start right up top with that.
In the data journey. First of all, I'll explain what a data journey is. When you look into blockchain, there's a way to break the silos. There's a way to connect all the data. Like, for example, in a supply chain. In a supply chain, you can connect all the different stages where data is captured from literally the farm to the table. And where this is interesting is there's a lot of data that could potentially get captured that doesn't get captured in the right way when we talk about beneficial ownership transparency. So at the very first stage, there's a problem when we talk about the data capture with respect to, well, first of all, can I ask you, does anybody deal with beneficial ownership here? and stand up. So to draw light to this, could you explain a little bit what your role is? And then we're going to go through together.
As open corporates, one half of the puzzle is knowing who the legal entities are around the world. The second piece of the puzzle, which we work on with open ownership, and Tom over there, is the beneficial ownership being that next step in the transparency of companies. So we campaign alongside a number of others for opening up data. We tend to go a little bit further than some in terms of the fact that we don't just want public access to the beneficial ownership registries. We actually want those registries provided as open data. That's where you actually really get the value in being able to use that data to really understand and uncover links that you can't see otherwise. And so that's the piece that's really important for us. Quite frankly, we want that data. We want to be able to analyze it. We want to uncover hidden networks within it.
Okay.
Please.
Well, sorry?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Sorry. No, well, in our case, beneficial ownership is at the heart of the work we do. Right. Because when we are actually investigating, like several of the leaks that we have received, but also any corporate entity, like, and many of those goes to secrecy jurisdictions. So one of the end goals for us is to figure out who is behind those entities, what are those entities being used for, and then connect those entities with other pieces of the puzzle. So like procurement, like public money, and then how does that affect citizens too? So is it a systemic problem or not? So we are always in the hunt, actually, and ownership registries, the open ones, also help us validate information that we get through other sources too. So they're central to our work, yes.
And do you see gaps?
Oh, plenty. Yes.
That's where the journey of data connects.
And of course, and for us, like, it's key, like, and then like to Rebecca's point, is like it's key, like, the form we're getting access to the data, because for us, like the quality of the data, we see many gaps, like, and
garbage in, garbage out.
Sure, yeah. And then because like, and also if it's downloadable or not, and like what kind of information do you need to access to that information? Exactly. So can you search by name or not? And can you actually download it?
Is it standardized?
Across
the board.
Is it standardized? Can you download the bulk data? And then how can you confirm that person is the person you're investigating? So that's the next step too. Right. So, but that's part of the pieces of the puzzle but yeah, it's central to the work we do.
Yeah. What about you?
Hi, I'm Alana. I'm with Open Ownership on the policy and research team, so won't add a lot to what Tom has said, but we're, I suppose, predominantly responsible on our team for maintaining and growing the evidence base around the open ownership principles that have a lot to do with how we work with governments on the kind of legal and regulatory frameworks, business processes that, I suppose in my view, lay the foundation for ultimately having data with sufficient level of detail to be able to identify beneficial owners that we can feel confident in terms of the accuracy of the data that's widely available, et cetera.
Right. So one challenge that we've seen in step one of the
Diana,
data journey.
we've got one more comment on that point.
Please, go on.
Thank you very much, Shanka Falari. I guess the challenges that we have are similar because we're journalists doing investigating political exposed people. One of the things that is really challenging for us is finding people that are related, creating a network of relationships when we're doing the investigations.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's so many, I think it's clear, there's so many silos that we have to bust open to find the data. We have to clean the data, all those things. But then, even when we find them, there's that need to do the mapping, right? That's also something very important.
So the journey of data is really, like you've all alluded to, there's gaps. And the ideal would be to really have an accurate and comprehensive map that can connect and follow the activity of each and every individual from the moment that they first engage with a particular platform throughout all of the financial system, all of their activities, until the moment of any final transaction connecting every single activity and connecting every single individual. So the challenge that we've seen, and we're only in step 1, we've mapped out 6 steps, is the data collection, where we've seen like the automation, the role of automation and collecting quality data, but sometimes there are individuals who collect wrong data, right? And there's gaps. And maybe a question to whoever might want to participate is, what struggles have you seen, what challenges have you seen in ensuring quality data goes in first at the beginning?
That particular problem. One quick story that I learned last week, and it kind of blew my mind. Stand here. Particular country in the east of Africa. There was a tip-off that the CEO of a particular government agency was pushing a lot of contracts the way of his mistress, his girlfriend. And the tip-off came because this particular woman really enjoyed using Instagram, and her Instagram account went from somebody who just sort of hung out in not very nice kind of bars, cafes, and restaurants to someone that hung out in really, really, really nice bars, cafes, and restaurants and had a super nice car that they didn't have 6 months ago. This person had incorporated a company, and she was listed as the owner. And the other owner and beneficial owner of it was a foreign male. And I'm deliberately calling it a foreign male. It's a live case in this country, so kind of obscure it. So the foreign male from a European country, they had provided a scan of their passport page as part of their identity verification process, and they were the other owner. About 6 months after this case had first been opened, it was a very sort of slow, long, laborious process given the availability of information for this government to investigate it. Someone noticed that the foreign passport, the foreign passport name, the middle name of the individual, the foreign male, was the same as the first name of the CEO of this government agency, and also had the same birth date. And one of the kind of first things you see in quite a lot of corruption cases is just how sort of uncreative people are when they fake documents. Like, it's impossible to think of another date, so you put your own birth date down. People do this, and they do it quite regularly. This made people think, well, who is this person? Maybe they're not real. So eventually, 6 months in, they ring the government of the country from which this passport comes, and they ask, is the passport number a real one? And it wasn't. Passport was entirely fake. So a company had been created for the CEO of government agency to push money into effectively a company that he owned and controlled through his girlfriend, through his mistress. And I think what all of this sort of tells you is that when we think about the gaps in the data, what we are not seeing is even where data is available, the fake passport, people do not have the time and resource or necessarily the impetus in this particular case to go off and check if that information is accurate. So throughout the data journey, particularly in under-resourced environments, the ability to check even basic information where it exists is not there, or the impetus is not there to do it. So we do face a number of challenges around that. And please, if we can get to a point where there is significantly faster, instantaneous sharing between governments, so you can check a foreign passport number against the
And Tom,
origin.
there is in some circumstances, right? I mean, now when we buy something online, if we put down a wrong number in the credit card or the data's wrong, it bounces back immediately, right? And won't let us go to the next step. That's an instantaneous check of worldwide records. So surely we can disintermediate, Diana, help me with this. Can't we disintermediate this middleman person who's either corrupt or lazy or both?
Yeah. So now we've really gotten to the quality of data collection. Sometimes human gatekeepers can enter in the wrong name. Like you like to say the example of Mickey Mouse and putting them as like beneficial owner.
Is that right? Did Oliver Bullows in his latest book, Butler to the World, did he say that Mickey Mouse and Adolf Hitler are the two #1 names for?
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. So
the lack of creativity of these criminals.
this is where the exciting part comes for those of you looking into technology, that after data collection, you can have a quality assurance, making sure that the data you're entering is quality data by being able to triangulate sources of data. And if someone enters Mickey Mouse with a passport number and like whatever credentials, you can actually triangulate and across other sources and registries of identity information and really make sure this person doesn't exist, this is sketchy, this raises a red flag, let's investigate. So that the wrongful entities don't even get recorded. Ideally, that would be a great outcome. If they do, then you go into step 3. If
Actually,
they pass,
but before you let's pause a little bit more before we get to step 3. So let's pause on quality. Yeah, Tom, I think you had mentioned at one point that we were using verification, data verification when we should be levels of assurance. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, this is my slightly pointless personal crusade against the word verification.
I think it's not pointless at all.
I think it's sort of it's wordplay, but I think it's important. I think, and exactly to what you've just mentioned around looking to red flag stuff. What we're not looking to do, I think, in any of this is say 100% that there is a person at the end of all of this who is living and breathing, and I can find them and I can touch them necessarily. People and identity are, they're fictions of the state. We assign people names and all the rest of it. What we're really looking to do, and why I think of this as levels of assurance, is provide people with the tools to say, to a degree, how much do I need to know and verify this person for the particular thing that I am doing? If you're selling alcohol to somebody in a shop, you want to check a driving license and see if they're above 18 or 21 or whatever the legal age is. That's quite different from opening a bank account, and that's what I mean about those levels of assurance. So I think for us in open ownership, and what we see and what we try to work with many governments on, is beginning to say the verification process is not about a binary yes or no answer, is this person real? It's about giving you the tools to escalate a particular case and investigate further where certain red flags have been raised.
and raising the right red flags.
Exactly.
Right technologies.
And that's the point of it. And what is the level of assurance you need if this is a not particularly complex company and you're looking into it not because you suspect them of grand corruption, but for some other purpose? Then your need to investigate that identity is going to be somewhat lower to that company you think is implicated in something that's costing the state 10, 20, 30 million a year, billion a year or whatever. So that's what I mean by levels of assurance. And I think verification is sort of, as a term, when we think about beneficial ownership, has led people to think there's either truth or falsehood, and there kind of isn't in this
Is
world.
anybody in the room working on this stage, if you will, the data assurance, quality control, tech bringing quality control to data collection and evaluation? Okay, so room for some. Oh, yes, please.
I'm Mark Song, CEO of a company called Urban Logic. So we break down data silos in government, and we apply machine and deep learning to develop patterns. So in Minnesota, we identify where the next person is likely to die in a fire, or Texas to improve time of traffic lights. So that's kind of the work we do, but my personal passion was always kind of global issues and human security. So this actually was more of a personal, this is actually technically a vacation time for me. But then I saw these, I was actually surprised to see all the tech streams. So this is all actually a very pleasant surprise. So a lot of the work we do actually is government data. You think of when there's in San Jose is one of our clients, when there's a car crash, police fill out hand-filled crash report, and depending on whether the cop's in a rush, sometimes they'll skip things, etc. So we've done a lot of machine learning to identify, like whether there are gaps in the data and what are the things so it raises to your the levels of assurance thing. There's a data quality score. So this looks very diligent, and so it automatically goes in. But this one looks like someone was really, the crash didn't happen exactly at 1800, right? They just kind of said, I'm in a hurry, I'll just put the closest time, etc. And so it'll start to say someone should take a second look at this. So the thing is, like, a human can spot, you'd know if you read enough reports whether or not you can tell someone will skip things or was in a rush, because it's never exactly round numbers.
The pattern. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where a lot of our work is. And so a lot of the problems you're discussing are things we actually deal with maybe in a different field, but the thing with machine learning, it doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know the difference whether we're talking about crash reports or or budget reports. So I think there is actually a lot of promise that this
There's
can be solved.
applicability.
Yeah, this definitely can be solved. It is a solved problem. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. The capability is there. Maybe sometimes the human will might be a challenge, especially along the entering the data, quality of data. Next, when we talk about data sharing, has anybody been involved in the concept of data sharing? Navroop.
Oh, I have to speak now? But there's one person right there.
Please.
I can't see because of the pillar. Yeah.
Got a
We're
nice
trying to
ethnic wear
avoid the
too,
pillar
so
problem here.
Go for it.
I know.
So we are helping Government of India come up with a national data sharing framework, and we're also helping Government of India build a data platform where data sharing would become simpler through digital contracting, so that anyone who wants to access government data can see what kind of data sets exist through open metadata framework.
Yes.
And can then understand what are the kind of available access models, especially for non-personal data sets, and then see what kind of agreements would fit in for their use case.
Yeah.
So
we've been
can
looking
I-
at the whole example of the tech stack of the government of India concept.
So the problem
What
with
are your
the
thoughts?
India's tech is, and I was reading in the study as well, A, it's not open source. B, the data is not open access APIs.
Yeah.
So that's something which we are trying to change here.
That's the
We are
challenge.
trying to make this architecture open source. We are trying to make the metadata standard completely open so that it's published in open license. And as many as possible APIs would be open access APIs. So that's what we are trying to aim there.
Perfect example of what we're hoping for from all of you and others who you can help bring into the collaboration. So it's right. In the report, we do a brief nod to the fact that it is not open source. And then we go on, jump right on to scalability. But we're looking at open source to be able to cause the problem, to get closer to the solution. So thank you for bringing out that empty piece in the report. Thank you.
I can quickly jump in here. By the way, I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit more about what you talked about and what that looks like from an Indian perspective. We did spend some time, as Diana and Don mentioned, mentioning the India stack and what that would look like, a version of it that can actually serve the world and not just one nation. But there are two initiatives I think I should mention. One is the Data Consortium. We're doing it at MIT, at Connection Science. And the idea is very simple. I'll put it this way. Rather than shipping data to where the algorithms are, you ship the algorithms to where the data is. So you don't have to share the data at the first place. Yeah? Because that's where the risk is, right? That's where the risk is. When you share data, and if you look at crypto, for example, most of the hacks are the bridges, right? Most of the money that was stolen, always the bridges. So the activity of transporting data from point A to point B is the riskiest of all. So can we change that, right? So we have these living labs around the world, including many countries. And the idea is, can we change, again, from an infrastructure perspective, how exactly the data is being shared and done in a safe way, in a privacy-preserving way. Now, that's the other part of the equation, which is when you're sharing data, what kind of laws come in, right? There's a lot of unfolding we're seeing, if you may, with GDPR. And I think we were talking yesterday on how the Interpol cannot keep data for more than 6 months on a certain case, which is, it's a joke, right?
And that again is why this marriage of science and activism is so critical, so that because we can sharpen the pieces that that each is working on to dovetail, and certainly that privacy piece is particularly big. Hey, Navroop, could you take us to you and Diana maybe together take us to the next step of the data journey, the pattern recognition and so forth?
The data analytics, and that's where blockchain becomes very interesting, which I mentioned at the very, very beginning, which is one of the concepts that I'm most passionate about, and it's actually the angle with which I got into the blockchain space. But the ability to, first of all, every transaction is recorded on the blockchain. Even if they're anonymous, whether it's a public or private blockchain, every single transaction is available to all members in the network. And well, obviously with different levels of anonymity and different levels of access, right, depending on the privacy components, but that's a different question. But being able to identify patterns of activity, and in illicit activity, in hacks, for example, hackers aren't going to steal a lot of money from a lot of different places and move it immediately to their own wallet, because that's going to be a suspicious sum of money that's going to be like questionable, right? So what practices criminals usually engage in is, obviously, as many of you know, dividing the money into little pieces and moving it around to create confusion, right? The concept of layering and whatnot. That in a blockchain doesn't really work because everything is recorded. We have sophisticated algorithms that can draw analytics through AI and machine learning and can detect whether it's one big amount of money being moved to a suspicious wallet or many small amounts of money that get moved around and end up in a suspicious wallet. Still, the ultimate suspicious wallet where they end up gets red flagged.
Which might, and those bunch of little ones might never get caught in the ordinary
financial system. They don't get caught because we don't have the connected journeys of data. We have the data silos. Different financial institutions hold different records, and the little movements of money actually do create confusion. But the irony is on the blockchain, when a hacker steals a lot of money and then the final wallet gets red flagged, it's not like they can access that money that easily, because as soon as they want to try to convert it into fiat, as soon as they try to move it, government organizations already have their eye on it. So there's actually many hackers that got caught through these analytics, and hackers that have stolen money, and what do they do with it? They know that they're going to go to jail as soon as they try to convert it into fiat. So that's the type of sophisticated pattern activity that we're talking about in terms of creating the visibility to the suspicious activity and connecting it to the people behind it that we're talking about.
Diana, I'm going to stop you at that point in the data journey. I want to move to a sort of a different piece of the report you may enjoy looking at, and we really ask you to come back and challenge us on this. We've listed 6 specific invitations to action. And we didn't dare call them calls to action because it's invitations to think about whether these are the priorities with which the community would like to coalesce around. But I'd like to highlight one, and Tom, you've been a real champion of the blockchain in every port idea. Could you give us a little bit, and you're watching time probably better than me. We've got about 15 minutes.
Not even.
Not even. Let's do that.
Sure.
And then we'll give you a moment to synthesize your thinking, to summarize.
So I'll finish up then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so the idea of blockchain in every port comes from the idea that some $800 billion in international trade that developing countries are involved with is misinvoiced, mispriced every year. And that's for numerous reasons: evade customs duties, VAT taxes, income taxes, and so forth.
Say that number again.
800 billion is the value gap. Taxes would be a percentage of that, so probably about 15–18% of that developing country governments are losing every year. The reason this is so easy to do, and it happens every single day, is that there is a lack of information from the exporting customs department to the importing customs department. So the value that's on the invoices when they leave a country, the importing customs department has no idea what that is. It's just sort of a gap of information. If you put blockchain in every port, and I will say this is not my idea, but we're promoting it. This is a World Customs Organization idea that was in a paper about 3 years ago. If you put blockchain in every port, this becomes an international norm that data gap goes away. The information, the invoices, the bills of lading, everything having to do with an international trade transaction can be sent immediately, and it'll get to the endpoint before the goods ever do. So if there's misinvoicing on the other end, it can be detected immediately, and the proper amount of duties and VAT can be collected.
Now, Tom, before you sort of try to synthesize this whole conversation for us, couple moments, if anybody has just been dying to get out a hot priority item for marrying up science and activism, and you want to throw them out into this conversation, we'd love to hear them. If you don't have anything now, please contact us and let's start the conversation. But anybody want to share ideas now? It's getting too close to drinks, right? Okay. All right. Tom, why don't you wrap us up?
Great, thank you. Since this is not a panel, it's a workshop, you have a rapporteur at the end. I'm going to try to synthesize about an hour and 20 minutes of conversation in about 5. So this is very sort of high points, but what we hear is that there's the hidden economy, some $50 trillion offshore, not going to positive uses around the globe. Don, I think you were talking about $3 trillion a year needed for the SDGs. It's actually about twice that. It's $6 trillion a year.
Holy moly.
We've got an environmental crisis. This is the urgent problem of our times, and there's not nearly enough money going into it. The wealth gap, inequality, we hear about it every day. It doesn't seem to be getting addressed as it should. This money that's hidden offshore can certainly go to try to help that. And then what we're all here to talk about was the technology and how the technology can be used to augment what the advocacy has been calling for the last 15 or 20 years. But the foundation to all of this is collaboration. Whether you're an investigative journalist, you work on beneficial ownership registries, you're talking about tax evasion, whatever it may be, whatever avenue you approach this problem with, we all have to be talking together and trying to work for the same solutions. Don had a great sentence or phrase, actually. I don't know if anybody caught it, but it's the marriage of data science and activism is what we're meant to be talking about and what this paper is all about and what we hope the conversation after this will be. That's the what. All those things I just listed, the what. Those are the problems that we sort of went over. And it's the how is the next, which is the data journey that Diana and others have been talking about, collecting it, assuring it's accurate to the best of our ability, sharing it, but securing identities when we need to. Then we analyze it. And it's that analytical capability, the pattern recognition, what have you, that is going to help us activists get to the end point of where we need to be. So that's the how. But the critical thing is the why. What are we all doing here? Don started this out with passion, whether it's folks on the panel or in the audience. And I'm just going to highlight just a phrase that each one of us has said. Diana was talking about tracking and tracing and using the ability of technology to connect individuals with criminal activity. And if you can do that, you're really making progress. Navroop talked about human-centered economy, and that's why she gets into this. This is part of her passion. Satya talked about the confluence of corruption, climate, and conflict, and this is what he's been focused on. As he said, started his career in human rights activism. And Tom is talking about using technology so governments can do better for their citizens. These are all noble approaches noble reasons to try to approach this problem from many different directions.
I would add that so many of you really captured many multifaceted aspects of this passion, and we're just so grateful that you came, and genuinely hope that we'll be finding ways to collaborate together. We want this very much to be a beginning, and whether it involves us or not, we really don't care. This can be decentralized. We'd love it if you join with us. Navroop.
Well, I just wanted to quickly say that we will be at the World Economic Forum in Davos as well. We go there every year. We launched a Digital Economist there 3 years ago. And that will be the second in the series of activations. Today is the first one, along with the launch of the first paper of this initiative called Tech for Transparency. And so if any of you are planning to be there, please join us. Please reach out to us. Let us know. As you know, it is the most powerful venue when it comes to policy and economics and also innovation now. So just wanted to interject there. Thank you, Don.
Perfect. Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
And I just want to give a shout out to Don, who is the most extraordinary colleague, and I should probably stand up for this. And you could probably see his passion, right, from everything that he's been driving over the past months and on the journey forward. Also want to give a shout out to Gary, who I met in New York and now the second time in DC, for hosting us here. And yeah,
another member of the working group.
Exactly.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy drinks and dinner.